My name is Andrew Barefoot of the Effin Sports Podcast. And here in episode number 2, we have the interesting Richard Guberti. Richard, how are you doing today?
Yeah, Rich Guberti. Good, Andrew.
Rich.
I'm really doing well, bro. Yeah, call me Rich. Richard, my mother called me Richard, and I would get in trouble. So I would go with Rich. So what's happening? What's going on?
Rich himself is a man who's worn many hats: Fordham University hockey coach, a USA hockey developer, past tour manager of some pretty awesome bands you might be familiar with: Motley Crue, Bon Jovi, Aerosmith, Metallica, Def Leppard, Kiss. Maybe you could tell us a little about yourself, your experiences.
Grew up in the Bronx. I was the oldest of 3 kids, 2 Italian parents. My grandparents were immigrants from Italy. No social media when I grew up, so we all went to the schoolyard. We played in the streets. We played all kinds of sports, basic games. You ever hear of Johnny Ride the Pony?
No, never heard
Exactly. Stoop ball, just a whole bunch of stuff. You know, so like I said, growing up in the Bronx, it just was different times without social media. There wasn't the pressure to go to a good college. I can remember, I went to a high school in the Bronx called Mount St. Michael Academy, where the teachers just flat out beat you up. You made a mistake and they stuff you in a locker. The thing about Mount St. Michael is it was a melting pot, so there were people from all walks of life. It was good because you learn that when you get past all the bullshit, everybody's the same. And for me, I started to become friends with everybody, not just Italians, but, it didn't matter to me whether you were Puerto Rican, Black, Asian. I didn't care. As long as you were a good person, I'd hang out with you.
Absolutely.
The thing about it was I remember being out at a nightclub one night on a Friday, and my friend said, "Did you study for the SAT test tomorrow?" And I said, "No." He said, "Well, what did you do?" I said, "Well, I got another 2 pencils." So in other words, we really weren't under pressure back then to study hard for the SATs even. The SATs was something to do on Saturday. We've got number 2 pencils, and we went and took the test. There wasn't any anxiety involved. We didn't have anxiety back then. If I told my father I had anxiety, he would have said, "You know what? You got anxiety? Start running. If I catch you, that's anxiety." It's just a different era, man.
I kind of had that same type of mentality with my SAT, which is kind of funny.
That's well, good for you.
I took it twice. Didn't want to take it twice. I told my mom, "Don't make me take it twice." I didn't want to take it the first time. I got the same score twice. It is what it is.
Went to Iona College. I got out with business administration degree, major in management, minor in marketing. There were no jobs when I got out. There were no jobs, to speak of. And I ended up just through working as a bouncer at nightclubs and then running nightclubs with my friends. I somehow met one of the guys in Aerosmith. We became friends over the summer. He suggested I go on tour with them and be one of their security team. So it paid more money than I would have gotten paid had I taken one of those entry-level jobs back then. So off I went, and I was on tour with Aerosmith. I went to one concert that I could remember as a kid, and that was I went to see the Monkees in Forest Hills Tennis Stadium. And it's a pretty famous concert. Jimi Hendrix was the opening act.
Shit.
Jimi Hendrix, it was one of 8 shows that Jimi Hendrix opened up for the Monkees on their tour, and then he quit the tour because he was playing his ass off, and none of these little teeny boppers appreciated him. They just wanted him to finish and get going. So he actually quit after 8 shows.
Crazy. One
of them is Forest Hills. You can check it out. It's like next thing I know, I'm on tour with Aerosmith. Got on a plane with them, and I didn't come back to New York for about 9 months. What that did was it really changed my life. Otherwise, I just would have been another guy in the Bronx trying to scratch his way out of there. Aerosmith was getting on a rocket ship because it just exposed me to a whole nother world. And a lot of it was insane, all chaotic. The band is, is noted for being one of the biggest partying bands. The amount of toxicity that they had between them was amazing. And I kind of fit right in because growing up in the Bronx, it was chaotic when I was a kid. Yeah. There was, there were gangs, there were fights, riots. We had our own riots. I mean, we had riots against ourselves. We would have a riot against another neighborhood, and listen, some guys didn't make it out of there. I mean, some I remember kids either getting killed or overdosing. But Aerosmith got me away from that. Got me all of a sudden into a life of really staying at 5-star hotels, private jets, limousines, meeting celebrities, movie stars, and into Studio 54, things like that. And it was very exciting. It was addicting. It kind of screws you up too. Come back from tour and you talk to some of your friends in the neighborhood, and first off, they don't believe what you're saying. If they ask you like what you did last week, and you're not even bragging about it. You're just telling them, what you did.
Yeah.
And next thing you know, they're like, oh, they don't even want to hang out
with this guy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
pretty much, you know. Shortly thereafter, I settled down, got married, started my own business, started a transportation company, limousine company. I had a choice of the three things that I learned how to do very well was either it would have been open a hotel. I didn't have the money. Get a chartered jet business. I didn't have the money, or get into a limousine business, and anybody could get a limousine. All you needed to do was have decent credit, and they'd give you one back then. I think nowadays everybody says that grind. Everybody gets I'm grinding. I'm getting my side hustle on, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I did though. I worked 7 days a week, 12 to 20 hours if I had to a day, and all with the goal of making this business succeed. Through the grace of God and the help of family, it did succeed and it took off and it became a big entity. I still was doing the music stuff on the side, but what we also were doing is we were doing entire tours and providing them the transportation across the world. I mean, we did Metallica, took them around the world. Great experience. It was not easy. It was hard. My time management skills weren't there as far as spending enough time at home. So that suffered as a result. At some point in the 90s, late 90s, I got a divorce, and I regret, unfortunately, that happens in life. And my advice to anybody is, make sure you're ready to get married before you do. Don't let anybody pressure you into doing it. Not that I was pressured, but I was not ready to get married mentally and responsibility-wise, because really the goal, even though you hear these statistics to make everybody feel good, that the goal is, marriage is 50% of them or whatever the statistic is, don't succeed. Still, it's beneficial if you can to patch things up and keep going forward. Because now at my age, I have friends that they're married 30 years, 35 years. God bless them, and who's to say, what the right answer is in life. So that's if you want some kind of advice, there it is, because we could sit here and I could tell you salacious Aerosmith stories. Think of use your wildest imagination and then times that by like 10, because it really is. I'm just talking about crazy stuff, trash in hotel rooms, throwing the TV out the balcony window into the pool from like the 9th floor, and then the Royal Canadian Mounties coming up knocking on the door and asking us if we did that. And we said no, and they asked us, well, why isn't there a TV in the room? Stuff like that. But that's the kind of stuff where you realize, you learn things in those situations. And one of the things you learn is that when you trash a hotel room, you pay the rack rate on that hotel room until they fix it. So if you wreck a room and it takes 2 weeks to fix it, you're paying the expensive rate on that room for 14 days, plus whatever damages. And they obviously don't give you a discount on any of the. That's the kind of stuff you learn. You learn how to deal with chaos, deal with insanity. You got to make quick decisions, and it's all with the one common goal of that show must go on. So no matter what happens, you got to make sure that if it's 5 guys in the band, all 5 guys are on the stage doing a sound check. Or if they blow off sound check, that they're in the arena by 7 or 8 p.m., whatever the call time is. And in between there, you could have an overdose, you could have an arrest, you could have a disappearance, you could have all kinds of things going on with these guys. Seriously, that's the rock and roll business. It's the kind of job where you're making more than you could ever imagine. Generally, I was making more than I could even imagine. And as a result, what happens is that everybody wants that job. So you really have a tough time. You have to kind of figure out who you can trust in that business. In talking to professional athletes or people that have had a lot of success in life, that really is what you see. A lot of it, you have to have that drive to succeed in spite of all obstacles. You can't. There's too many people out there that say, I didn't make it because of this or that, and they come up with some kind of an excuse. You got to really, the ones who make it overcome everything. And the other thing to remember is the ones who make it. First off, who knows what that means, making it, especially nowadays, it's changed, right? But no matter what you do in life, you're going to have adversity. Adversity is really important to have adversity in your life, because it's going to make you a better person. So, you pass through failure every time you try to succeed in life. And if you fall 9 times, get up 10, and the 10th time might be the time that you succeed. So you make it, stop doing what you do to succeed, and then you fall back and you lose it. So I made it, I lost it, I made a comeback, and really I'm on my second comeback, I think, or either a third. I lose track of it. Right after 9/11, 9/11, we were devastated for a couple of years, and then it started to rebuild, and then we had the bank industry collapse. And
Yeah.
that again, you know, the subprime mortgages, that was another kick in the ass. Now what we're going through right now, there's your adversity, you know. So you can't say you weren't
Yeah,
exposed to if you
absolutely.
haven't been.
Yeah, for sure.
Everybody in the country is going through adversity, and once again, this is punched me in my face, the amount of adversity that I've seen in business, personally, and every aspect of life from this coronavirus. You know,
Yeah.
it really played with the anxiety and so many different aspects of it, the lack of compassion or the need for compassion in the world, power, as far as, you know, you feel kind of helpless if you're really in tune with, if you're listening to what the Republicans and the Democrats are saying. It's two different agendas depending on what channel you put on TV. It's two different agendas. You know, even now, one side is for the economy, the other side says we still got to wear masks. You know, what is it? You know what I mean? I prefer to live, and you know, I prefer to stay alive. But at the same point, there are a lot of people that are saying, well, you know I know I have to stay alive, but I also got to pay my bills. So
yeah,
you know,
it's a tough two-way street. Now, I know you tour managed with a bunch of awesome bands. If you had to pick, I know this might be tough, put you on the spot, which was your favorite / craziest / best band to tour with?
no, I'm going to have to stay with Aerosmith. And I'll tell you why, because I knew them on a personal level. Although Slash from Guns N' Roses is a great guy. He's a lot of fun to hang out with. It was hard to overcome Axl's insanity. So I would say no to that.
Yeah.
Metallica was also a bunch of good dudes. Who else? Scorpions were entertaining, but they're more of a German band, but they were good guys. AC/DC, bunch of good guys. You know, real good guys. But I would say Aerosmith because, you know, Steven is from Yonkers. I grew up in the Bronx, but I also grew up in New Rochelle. Joey Kramer was from Eastchester, New York. He went to Yonkers and then he moved to Eastchester. So, you know, we had a lot of commonality that way. And there was another guy from Yonkers, Bob Mayo, who was the keyboard player, side guy, and he was from Yonkers. So we had a lot of we really related a lot to each other. But yeah, I would say Aerosmith, man.
I'm sitting here. I don't know if you could talk about this. I'm sitting here with this copy of
there you go, Mob Story, a hip opera.
Mob Story, a hip opera,
Yeah.
which I know
you got to listen to that.
You got a cool story for us. I didn't even open it yet. I want to keep it mint.
Yeah. That's funny how you got that. So Mob Story, a hip hopper. In my Aerosmith days, Jack Douglas is a famous record producer. He did John Lennon's Double Fantasy album, and he did all the majority of the Aerosmith albums, certainly the ones that were really rocking out. He did Cheap Trick, and he did a lot of the Cheap Trick albums, and he's famous producer. And one day he came to me when The Sopranos were very hot, and he said, "Let's do something called Mob Story, a hip opera," because hip hop was becoming popular. The Sopranos were popular. He said, "Let's put it together and let's do this." So that CD is spoken word, like it's really a play. I mean, that is supposed to be a play somewhere, like Bronx Tales, the play, you know. In it, we had Vinny Pastore from The Sopranos, who I grew up with. He's a good friend of mine. Tony Sirico from The Sopranos. We had Kamal from the Jerky Boys. I don't know if you ever heard of the Jerky Boys, but if you haven't Googled them, because they're the original phone call pranksters. We had Slash play the guitar lick. We had David Bowie gave us the song Changes that we just changed a couple of the lyrics to. And the lead singer of Black 47. We had Chuck D from Public Enemy. He sang a song called "Everybody Pays the Men with a Cigar." So it's a good little thing. Have a listen to it. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think I've hit all the topics.
Cool.
Thank you so much for your time and all your extremely wise words. I'm gonna rewatch this and listen and take note and just keep pursuing my things and staying thankful and grateful.
Andrew, I wish you the best in life. And, you know, the bottom line is, as far as I appreciate your kind words with the experience and the strength and the hope, the one thing to remember is I've made every mistake you could possibly make in life. Okay. I'm not embarrassed to admit it. I wish I didn't have to say that, but, you know, so any kind of knowledge that I've acquired is because I've made the mistakes that you really don't want to make in life. And so if I could prevent somebody from making a mistake, and you know, I make them all the time. It's just, my goal is if I could help somebody just by what I'm saying or the positivity that I'm giving out there or putting out there, and if that could help you not make a mistake that I made, fantastic. I think my job in the world is done, you know?